Why are you staring, Nanako?
An design is highly hypocritical, but Sega at last used the femme fatale as a cheap excuse for the design, even though it humiliates Ann's. Naturally, scumbags strongly support this and how Ann was treated throughout the games because girl and woman are just transport for breasts for them. There are tons of videos dedicated to analyze Ann on YouTube. While some have made excellent video essay, far too many have failed to include 70% of her character because they got baited by the internet to only talk about her sexualities. In fact, some people believe that Ann's story is all about her coming to terms with her sexualities, which is so far from the truth. Ann's story and growth can be broken up into 3 major topics. And in this video, I will explain to you the beautiful and inspiring story of Ann Takamaki that everybody chooses not to tell. Ann, a second-year student, is Japanese and 1/4 Americans. Despite this, she has blonde hair and blue eyes, and is taller than most girls her age. While it would be unfair to label the entire country, it is not unheard of for some Japanese to treat foreigners poorly, especially when it's come to younger kids in the school environments. It might have improved now, but I'm not going to talk more about stuff I don't have vast knowledge of. So if you want to learn more, I suggest you go watch Lady with Julie, a very well-researched video, but after you finish my video first. The volleyball coach Kamoshida approached Ann one day and told her that he'll guarantee her only friend Shiho a starting spot on the school volleyball team as long as Ann remained to be in a relationship with him. Ann accepted despite her worries because she wanted to support Shiho in doing what she loved. As time passes, signs of emotional and physical abuse could be observed in all of the volleyball players, including Shiho, and Ann herself was becoming increasingly unhappy. She remained with Kamoshida though in order to help Shiho. She even tells Shiho to keep going despite the bruise on her body, believing that everything will be worth it in the end.
Well, I better go. Yep, good luck. Hang in there, Shiho.
Not long after, Ann reached her limits, refusing to go see Kamoshida, resulting in Kamoshida threatening to remove Shiho as the starter, but even worse, he used Shiho as a replacement for Ann and eventually forced Shiho off the edge. With Shiho in the hospital, Ann set her mind on confronting Kamoshida and awakened her persona Carmen's. Let's take a quick look at Carmen's origin and the similarity to Ann's story. Carmen is a female gypsy who first appeared in a novel of the same name by Mirimi. She is typically portrayed as a classic femme fatale who would use her beauty and charm to entice men to fall for her, but would soon end the relationship once she becomes bored and then hunt for her next victim. One day, a resentful ex-lover murdered her in jealous rage. Although she knew he was going to kill her, she claimed that she would rather die than be chained to the will of another and declared that Carmen will always be free. Unfortunately, this is usually the start of the brain transformation for most people attempting to analyze Ann's, as the word femme fatale entered their brains. I pray that most of you who are watching this will be able to survive it. The awakening of Carmen here showed Ann's determination and the first step she took toward freedoms. However, it has nothing to do with femme fatale yet at all. And yes, I know that Carmen decides a dominatrix, but who the heck is she dominating right now? And before you answer the question, let's see what dominatrix means. A woman who takes a dominant role in the BDSM sexual activities. So is she doing that to Joker and Ryuji, making them fall for her and do what she wants? Certainly not. Is she sexually attacking Kamoshida? Are these fireballs some sort of sexual fireball? I don't think so. Yes, she is regaining her sexuality, but the big message here is that she is regaining her freedom as a person. Carmen will always be free as a whole, not just sexually. After defeating Kamoshida, Ann gained confidence and more classmates opened up to her. However, it'll still be a long time before she truly becomes free because the worst has yet to come. And as she took her first step toward freedoms, something dark and grim was also born that day within her hearts. Find out what it is in the next part coming up now. Slowly opening up to Joker, Ann tells us why Shiho is sorry for not telling her about Kamoshida. Ann felt it was also her fault for not realizing. This is just the start of both Ann and Shiho character development, as they begin to believe in their own value and have the courage to fight for what is right. There are going to be several continuing topics to remember. I'll take a note for you guys so we can see how all of them get resolved. First, the lack of confidence. Wait, doesn't Ann doing stuff like modeling show how confident she is? Ann definitely knows she's beautiful, as she mentioned it many times. However, our self-confidence tested the most when someone confronted us. Words actually can't hurt us. The only reason that they do is because deep down inside, we doubt ourselves and believe that there is some truth to them.
I wonder if we're out of place here.
Second, being extremely valuable to loneliness. Anne can often be seen trying to rationalize the advantage of being alone. She mentioned that she felt free, but in reality, it is slightly the thing she hated and afraid of the most. Here, she mentioned that when she models, it felt like she is somehow connected with her parents, showing how much she cared about them. Some people might think that Kamoshida's story has been resolved. However, he is still living within her. Despite how much modeling means to Anne, she is reluctant to pursue it full times, as modeling is how Kamoshida first spotted her. Despite the wardens not being there and the cell door being unlocked, they continue to hold Anne in prison. Additional note will be added here as Anne mentioned that her first gig was for her parents as a substitute, and she quickly mentioned that the Phantom Thief is more important to her right now because no one can be her substitute there, showing Anne reluctant to fight for what she loved. Lastly, she mentioned the female villains whom she admired. She wasn't really a good person per se, but she was beautiful, strong, sincere, and even sexy. While Anne still has a long way to go, she already has a lot of this trait. But one I'd like to bring to your attention is how she carries her own version of justice and is not trying to be a good person. I'm not saying she's a bad person, but the choice she made were her own and not what best or most beneficial for the world. Others might think she is kind for not finishing off Kamoshida, but she quickly made it clear that it is because she wants him to suffer worse than death. Carmen, who is depicted with a femme fatale trope, which Anne personified but has yet to develop. Like to lure men over and discard them when she is bored. This is nothing to be glorified, and the game wanted you to understand this message. So during class, they have Kawagami bring up the tale of Princess Kaguya, one of the earlier depictions of femme fatale. Kaguya would promise men her marriage if they were able to complete her impossible task, which some would die trying. The important part is to understand what Anne really looked up to in this figure is the ability to do what they want, despite what others say about them, and not whether if they are good people or not. Anne then tells us about when she first moved back to Japan, and how everyone treated her poorly and started rumor about her due to her looks. She was even thinking about dyeing her hair black to fit in. This event shows us how loneliness is something she's been dealing with all her life, and that it makes her unable to think clearly and do irrational stuff. But that is also when Chiho show up. It's also show that why Anne is needy. She's not asking for too much. Just one person is enough to keep her from derailings. The problem is that Kamoshida knew how much Anne cared about Shiho and used this to his advantage. She then brought up the female villains again, admiring their hearts and persistent despite losing to the hero every time they continue to try. She also set up her ultimate goal of becoming an action movie star, which is the first time she even talked about her future and goal. But unfortunately, Anne will learn the hard way that having a goal alone is not enough. And what about her modeling gig? I'm glad you asked, and let's keep going to see how it all will end. Anne first met Mika at one of her modeling gigs, who was quite nice toward Anne, trying to ask her for tips and tricks on how Anne take care of herself to be so beautiful. However, Mika quickly turned hostile toward Anne as she revealed to her that she's not taking modeling seriously. Mika then fake crying to convince the staff that Anne is bullying her, making Anne lose her spot for today's gigs. While many might hate Mika for this reason, Mika is a big part of Anne's growth. In fact, it is arguable that Mika is as important as Shiho, as she represents nearly all the part Anne is missing, such as how hard she worked and how far she is willing to go to get what she wants. This is exactly in parallel with the villain Anne looked up to. Despite being mad, Anne was more impressed, and she learned right away from Mika to use her look as a leverage to get what she wants. This is also when she unlocked the crocodile tear technique that allowed her to convince the shadow to release the captive party member. And yes, this is where Anne first learned to use her femininity to get what she wanted. However, if you don't work on her confidant at all, it will still be introduced in the main story later. Seeing Shiho drenched in sweat and full of pain as she tried to move around during rehab, Anne broke down in tears. Shiho eventually was able to complete her rehab, but despite thinking how great and strong of a person she was, Anne could not stop crying, and she doesn't seem to understand why. Apart from the obvious, which is seeing the person she loved the most in the worst condition of their life. Remember when I mentioned earlier that something was created the day Anne defeated Kamoshida? That something is guilt. Whether she realized it or not, unconsciously she felt responsible for Shiho's condition. Let's revisit Carmen's story because this is where the story of Carmen and Anne are the worst. With Anne possibly being the darker ones, Carmen chose to sacrifice her life at the end in order to be free. However, for Anne, what was sacrificed was Shiho. This is Of course, not on intention, as there is no way she could have known what Kamoshida was going to do apart from taking Shiho off the team. Despite that, she couldn't help but feel responsible. Unexpectedly, Mika invited An to take part in a double shoot for her upcoming gig, and was astounded at how stunning Mika has become. Mika explained to An how hard she has to work to achieve this look. Once again, Mika does not show any hostility toward An on the initial approach, until An mentioned that this means Mika can't eat double chocolate crepe, which as you expect triggered Mika pretty hard. She explained her frustration to An, saying that compared to a natural beauty like An, she has to put in a lot of work to be where she is. An, of course, being kinda dense, thanks Mika for the compliments rather than actually absorbing what Mika was trying to make her aware of. And not to anyone's surprise, it went downhill from there for the two of them. Once again, at the end of the shoot, we see Mika using her charm to get on the staff good sides and asking for the connection to the big fish in the industry. An left feeling defeated and pissed. Surprisingly, not at Mika, but at herself, for not taking what she loved seriously compared to Mika and even admitting that Mika was on a whole different level. While not able to get through to An during the shoot, at the end, Mika succeeded in igniting passion and fighting hard within An. At the end of this event, An learned a sexy technique to help with enemy negotiation, paralleling how Mika used her charm to get what she wanted from the staff. With her newfound determination, An asked Ruchi to coach her at the gym, but after getting some workout done, Ruchi has to leave to run some errands for his mom. This is where we again hear more about An's parents and her past. She says she is jealous of the relationship Ruchi and his mom have, again trying to justify that she is free just to admit not long after that she is lonely. I like us to be extra sensitive here, as An mentioned that eventually she get used to the loneliness. Some people, when they hear that a person is getting used to something, might think that they mean that they're okay with it. However, that could not have been more wrong, because in most cases, this is a big red flag suggesting that that person has given up on self-happiness. Luckily, Shiho came to An's rescue, or else we wouldn't have the version of An we have today. Upon Shiho released from rehabs, she made a request for Joker and An to accompany her to the school rooftop. Shiho then explained that she did not want to die, she just wanted to escape. A wonderful message from the writer to remind us that there is an alternative if we don't give up. Shiho's resolution has additional power and realism to it, as suicide survivors frequently utter those exact words in real life.
The millisecond my hands left the rail and my legs cleared it, I had an instantaneous regret for my actions. In those 4 seconds, I said to myself, what have I just done? And I want to die. God, please save me. And then I hit the water.
Shiho then told An she was able to recover because she saw how hard An was working and how it inspired Shiho to not give up and waste her life in the hospital. She then told An that being able to change others is what true strength is, symbolizing An reaching her goal and giving a warm whisper into her heart, letting her know that what she did was enough and that she could now be free from all the shame and doubt of the past. Breaking down in tears, An cried, saying that she was nothing special as a final resistance and doubting that she has done enough. Upon seeing Shiho looking sad while saying sorry, she decided to transfer school. An realized that she was about to make Shiho feel the same guilt she felt for choosing to leave her. She then gathered all of her courage, stopping her tears, and told Shiho that she would work hard to achieve her dreams and tell Shiho to do the same. While tears started to fall down from An's face once more, as she continued to try her best to keep smiling, Shiho realized the gift of freedom that An has just given her, hugged her, and reassured her that this would not be the end and they would meet again in the future. As great a message as this already is, I can't help but bring up Carmen's sorry one last time. Remember how Carmen sacrificed herself to continue to be free? And how without realizing it, An sacrificed Shiho to regain her freedom and carrying the guilt ever since? While Shiho already ensured An that she's done enough, we can see that An doesn't believe so. This event shows us how loneliness is something she's been dealing with all her life, and that makes her unable to think clearly and do irrational stuff. But that is also where she will show up. It's also shown that by An is needy. She's not asking for too much. Just one person is enough to keep her from derailing. As a final act to overcome this, An sacrificed her ultimate happiness in order for Shiho to be free, just like Carmen. However, she then broke down in tears again after Shiho left, getting frustrated with herself, saying, "Damn it, I told myself I wouldn't cry. I guess I'm alone again, huh?" Joker then comfort her, letting her know that she is not alone, that she still has him and everyone. Or just don't mention other people and take on all to himself. It is still a Persona game. So while I like the idea of growth and overcoming one's weaknesses, I really like how they write Anne here, and truly believe that her story might even be more beneficial to many people compared to other characters. While Anne has come far and overcome many of her weaknesses, she just could not grow out the baby that simply does not want to be alone. In a fictional world and even in a real world, where success and personal development are glorified, we sometimes forget that at the end of the day, we are humans and not everyone will succeed in everything they set out to do. I myself was in deep depression, realizing how I couldn't seem to accomplish anything I wanted, and it made me feel less than a human. To have a character such as Anne and Shiho remind us that the reason you are not able to accomplish everything is in fact because you are only a human, and what is important is to keep on trying. While this is the highest point in Anne's story, it is not the end, as she still has some stuff to settle. On epilogue has her and Joker meet up with Mika once more, as the staff explained to them how Mika misled other models to miss their shoot and replaced them as a substitute to make her way to the top. Mika told the staff she was sorry and wouldn't do it again, but after the staff left, she's explained to Anne that it was part of her hustle and she will not be ashamed of it, as it indeed solidified her as one of the top models right now. Anne was once again impressed by Mika and mentioned that she reminded her of a villain she loved, beautiful, strong, and wicked. Anne then declared that she would overthrow Mika and become the #1 model. Mika, for the very first time, was not annoyed by Anne's comments, smirked and accepted the challenge, finally showing mutual respect after seeing that Anne can also be serious too. Remember how in the earlier rank Anne was reluctant to take modeling seriously despite how much she loved it and how it's connect her with her parents, and how she was worried about becoming a substitute and would rather focus on the Phantom Thief because no one could replace her there? She is now coming into terms with herself and her guilt over Shiho's situation. She is ready to take on the world, doing what is important to her, and she is not afraid to compete to get what she wants. And that's the story about a woman who decided to be just a breast transporter. It's pretty bad writing all around, which makes sense why people would just rather talk about her sexualities. While there are already a tons of videos covering exactly that, feel free to let me know if you enjoy the way I present each subject and would like to see how I'll cover the said subject. And while you're waiting for our next video, how about watch this theory suggesting that Makoto, the Persona 3 protagonist, and our beloved Egghead boys are one and the same person.